The email arrived just after midnight. The subject line, painfully casual. Don't come to my wedding. Watch the live stream, okay? As I read her words, my hands went cold, not from rejection, but because I recognized the forced cheerfulness in her tone, the same tone she used when she was scared. She thought she was shutting me out, but I knew exactly what I had to do. My name is Margaret Hale, 56 years old, living alone in a quiet house where the walls still carry the echoes of my daughter's laughter. Ever since she moved across the country to live with her fiancé's wealthy family, our calls grew shorter, her voice more distant, her eyes dimmer in the rare photos she sent. I tried to believe she was simply building a new life, but deep down, I sensed something tightening around her. When her wedding invitation became an email telling me to stay away, every instinct I had as a mother stirred, and the silence between us suddenly felt dangerous. The email sat at the top of my inbox like a bruise, small, quiet, but impossible to ignore. I had just turned off the lamp beside my bed, the house settling into its usual nighttime creaks, when my phone buzzed. Midnight has a way of making everything feel sharper, colder. The glow from the screen lit the room in a pale blue wash. And there it was. Don't come to my wedding. Watch the live stream, okay? No greeting, no heart emoji, no love you, mom. Just those words. I opened the email, thinking maybe there was more, some explanation waiting below, but the message was short, stiff, unfamiliar. I read it once, then again. By the third time, the words felt like they were shifting under my eyes. My daughter never wrote like that. She used exclamation marks like confetti, scattered her thoughts in fragments, always added an extra space before a period. She would send voice notes because typing felt too formal. She never said, okay. She said, okay, drawing out the letters playfully. But this message, it sounded like instructions. I sat there, phone warm in my hand, the rest of the house silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator downstairs. My heart pounded, slow, not with anger, but with something else, something older, something instinctive. A mother knows when fear hides between the lines. I stared at the closing sentence. It's easier if you don't travel. The ceremony is private. Lily would never say that. She had begged me for years to promise I'd be there when she got married. She once told me, half laughing, half dreaming, that she wanted me to help her fasten her dress, hold her bouquet, breathe with her so she wouldn't faint walking down the aisle. Now suddenly, private mattered more than me? No, something was wrong. I sat back, feeling the mattress dip beneath me, the room suddenly colder. A gust of wind brushed the window pane, rattling it lightly, as if the night itself wanted my attention. My finger hovered over the reply button. Why can't I come? Are you okay? Who told you to send this? But instead, I closed the email. I needed to see more. I opened her old messages, scrolled through months of conversations. The change wasn't sudden, it creeping in gradually, like water seeping under a door. Shorter replies, less emotion, fewer photos, more silence. I noticed her punctuation had stiffened weeks ago. Her language shifted from warm to mechanical. Things she used to tell me freely, now hidden. A knot formed in my stomach. I clicked on her profile picture. Her smile looked held, too tight. Her eyes didn't follow the curve of her mouth the way they used to. There was someone beside her, her fiancé, his hand gripping her shoulder just a little too firmly. I zoomed in. Her fingers were pressed together, stiff, the way she held them when she was nervous, a detail only I would notice. My breath caught. This wasn't distance. This wasn't growing up. This was fear. The kind she had tried to hide from me when she was 12, and a teacher humiliated her in class. She'd come home smiling, insisting she was fine, but her voice had that same brittle edge. This email had it too. I reopened the message, studying every word. Private ceremony. Too complicated. Watch the live stream. Who phrases a wedding like that? Lily loved people, loved celebration, loved being surrounded by laughter and noise and music. She would have wanted me front row, hugging her, fixing her veil, crying into a tissue she would later tease me about. So who told her I couldn't come? I read the line again. We decided. We, not she. The fiancé's family, wealthy, influential, controlling in ways I couldn't quite name. I remembered meeting them once, their clipped smiles, evaluating eyes, the way they spoke over Lily as though she were furniture, not a person. His fiancé calling her my girl in a tone that felt like ownership, not affection. His mother watching every move Lily made. His father casually mentioning how tradition matters and family image must be protected. At the time, I'd brushed off the discomfort, told myself I was being overprotective. But now that discomfort felt like a warning I had ignored.
No signature. No love Lily. Just, please don't come. I reread the wording, noting the absence of contractions. Lily always wrote don't as daunt, forgetting the apostrophe. But here, everything was grammatically perfect. Too perfect. Someone else could have typed this. The thought chilled me. I pressed the phone to my chest, closing my eyes. If she didn't want me there because she was angry, she would have said so loudly, dramatically, emotionally. She would have called, cried, fought, pushed, pulled. This wasn't anger. This was containment. My heartbeat quickened. Who was watching her when she wrote that email? Why did it feel like she was being careful? I opened the message again, letting my eyes drift over one small detail I had noticed subconsciously, but hadn't yet processed. At the top corner, next to the timestamp, was a small symbol. Sent from desktop. Not her phone. Lily always emailed from her phone. Always. She hated sitting at a computer. Why was she using a desktop now? And whose desktop? A sharp breath escaped me. Someone was with her. Someone was dictating or monitoring her communication. My hands trembled slightly as I set the phone down on the blanket beside me. The room felt too quiet, too still, the kind of quiet that comes before something breaks. I whispered into the darkness, not expecting an answer. Lily, what did they do to you? The clock on my nightstand ticked once, loud in the silence. Then again. A slow, steady rhythm marking the moment I realized something undeniable. She wasn't pushing me away. She was warning me. Her email wasn't rejection. It was a signal, a plea wrapped in politeness. Don't come meant it's not safe. She thought distance would protect me, but she underestimated one thing. A mother doesn't stop showing up just because she's told not to. I reached for my suitcase. If she couldn't ask me to come, I would go anyway. Quietly, carefully. Because whatever fear she was hiding behind that forced politeness, I needed to see it for myself. And I knew, deep inside my bones, something about this wedding wasn't a celebration. It was a warning wrapped in lace. And I wasn't going to let my daughter face it alone. I couldn't sleep after that email. The house had gone quiet, settling into its old bones, but my mind kept circling the same thought. She doesn't sound like herself. So instead of turning off the phone, I opened her profile. The blue light painted my face in the dark bedroom, making the room feel even emptier. Lily's profile had always been noisy. Too many photos, too many captions, songs in her stories, her friends tagging her at coffee shops and late-night diners. Her life used to spill out onto the screen in a messy, beautiful way that irritated me and comforted me at the same time. Now it looked clean. Too clean. At first, I couldn't figure out what felt wrong. Her profile picture had changed. She stood beside him in front of a fountain that I didn't recognize, wearing a dress I'd never seen. Her hair was a little straighter, her smile a little tighter. I scrolled down. Rows of curated images greeted me. Dinners at long tables, formal events, family gatherings in expensive rooms with chandeliers and white flowers that all looked the same. In every photo, he was front and center. And Lily was always just behind him. She used to be the loudest thing in every shot, leaning forward, laughing, crossing her eyes, making the picture about her and whoever she cared about. Now she stood half a step back, angled slightly away, smiling with her mouth but not with her eyes. I scrolled further. College graduation? Gone. Her trip with friends to the coast? Gone. The photo of us in the kitchen, covered in flour after baking that lopsided birthday cake? Gone. I searched her albums by memory. I knew what I was looking for because I remembered when she'd posted them. I'd complained once that she didn't need to show the whole world everything. She had laughed and said, "But Mom, you are my world." Those photos, the ones where I existed, were gone. I pressed my thumb against the screen, as if I could drag them back from wherever he had buried them. In their place were carefully framed shots of her in his family's garden, on his boat, in his house, always his, never hers. The captions used to be long, rambling, full of jokes and inside references I didn't always understand. Now they were short, formal, grateful for tonight, honored to be included, feeling blessed. It didn't sound like my Lily.
At first glance, everything looked normal. Congratulations! So happy for you! You look stunning! But then I saw it, a tiny line beneath. Some comments may be hidden. My chest tightened. I clicked again, fingers suddenly unsteady. A few more comments appeared, out of order, like survivors. "Are you okay, Lily? You've been quiet. You haven't replied to any of us. Is everything all right?" Then, nothing. No replies from her. No visible responses. The rest were gone. Somewhere between the congratulations and the silence, whole conversations had been erased. Not by accident. I went to one of her best friend's profiles, Emma. Her posts were still the same kind of chaotic Lily used to love. I scrolled until I found it. A group photo from 3 years ago. Lily had been tagged in it once. Her name was missing now. My throat went dry. Tag removed. History trimmed. Like someone was cutting her loose from the life she'd had before him, one string at a time. I went back to Lily's page. The newest post caught my eye. Not because of the picture, but because of a subtle, sharp wrongness only I could feel. It was a shot of her at a bridal boutique, standing on a low platform, wearing a white dress. The caption read, "Found the one, heart." But it wasn't the dress that got my attention. It was the way she was holding her arm. Her left arm was angled slightly across her body, hand resting on her right elbow, like she was hugging herself. At first, it looked like a natural pose. Sweet, shy. But then I zoomed in. The screen blurred for a second, then sharpened. Beneath the makeup, beneath the soft lighting and smoothing filters, there was a shadow along her upper arm. Not the shadow from the window, not the shadow from fabric. A dull, round discoloration. Faint. But there. A bruise. I stared at it, my heart thudding slow and heavy in my chest. I pinched the screen, zoomed further. The makeup didn't quite cover it. The foundation looked thicker in that spot. My mind tried the kind route first. She bumped into something. She fell. She bruises easily. But then I remembered the email, the erased photos, the comments that never received answers. And I remembered the way she used to call me when she scraped her knee as a child, when she got embarrassed at school, when she argued with a teacher. She called me for everything, until she didn't. My finger slid down to the tagged photos section, half afraid of what I might find next. There, hidden beneath more polite, polished moments, was a candid shot, probably not meant to be seen by everyone.
Someone had snapped it from an angle, a bridesmaid filming a behind-the-scenes moment. Lily stood with her back half-turned, hair pinned up, dress zipped, her shoulders bare. The camera had caught her in motion, turning toward whoever called her name. Just before she faced the lens, the frame froze. Her smile hadn't reached her eyes yet. Her mouth was still straight. And there, along the edge of her collarbone, another faint mark. I backed out of the photo so fast my thumb slipped. My heart was no longer beating slowly. It was marching. "Who did that to you?" I whispered into the empty room. The shadows on the walls didn't answer. The hum of the refrigerator didn't change. My whole world had narrowed to the glow of that little screen and the girl trapped inside it. Lily standing a step behind him. Lily smiling like someone told her to. Lily losing pieces of her history, one deleted photo at a time. I scrolled back to the top again, to the email tab still open in the background. "Don't come to my wedding. Watch the live stream, okay?" I could almost hear her voice now. Not the one I raised, but the one she was forcing herself to use. Polite, distant, careful. It wasn't just that she didn't want me there. It was that someone else didn't want her past there. No childhood, no college friends, no mother. Just a blank surface to paint on. I set the phone down on the bedspread and pressed my palms against my eyes until I saw little bursts of light. Who was wiping her life clean? Who decided which parts of her were allowed to exist and which ones had to disappear? The questions felt like cold fingers closing around my throat, soft but unrelenting. I picked up the phone again, my decision already forming like a quiet, solid weight in my chest. They could erase the photos, they could delete the comments, they could curate the version of her they wanted the world to see, but they had forgotten one thing. They hadn't erased me. And I knew my daughter's real face, the one behind the smile, the one behind the bruise. I traced her picture on the screen with my thumb, the way I used to tuck her hair behind her ear. "I'm coming, Lily," I whispered into the dark, whether they wanted me there or not. The house felt different once the decision settled in my chest. It wasn't loud, or brave, or dramatic. It was just there. A quiet certainty that hummed beneath my skin as I sat at the kitchen table with my old laptop open, its fan whirring softly in the stillness. The clock on the wall ticked past 2 a.m. The street outside was empty. The only light in the room came from the screen, turning the steam rising from my untouched cup of tea into a pale, ghostly ribbon. I wasn't going to stay home and watch my own.
I opened a browser, my fingers stiff on the keys. The airline's homepage looked bright and cheerful, filled with smiling faces and palm trees I would never see. I typed in my city, then hers. One-way economy. I didn't bother with dates yet. I just watched the options load, little spinning icon turning like it held my future inside it. It wasn't the prices that made me pause. It was the message at the top. "Looks like you've recently searched this route. Pick up where you left off." I frowned. I hadn't looked up flights before tonight. I'd avoided it, honestly, as if choosing not to plan my travel made her email less real. I clicked anyway. A small window expanded in the corner. Previous itinerary. My name sat there, in black text. Departure date, 2 weeks from now. Arrival, the city where Lily lived. Return a week later. Trip status, canceled. For a moment, I thought it was some kind of glitch. Old data, a mistake. But right beneath it was a booking reference and a note. Refund processed to original form of payment. My heart slowed in a strange way, like it had to work harder to push each beat through.
I whispered to the empty room. I never booked this. The cursor blinked on the screen, an impatient little heartbeat. I clicked on View Details. The page shifted. My full name appeared again, spelled correctly, something most systems still manage to mess up. My date of birth, my seat selection, aisle near the middle. The billing section was partially hidden, but the last 4 digits of a card number I didn't recognize showed in gray. Someone else had bought me a ticket and then canceled it. I leaned back in the chair slowly, the wood creaking beneath me like it too was protesting. The first thought that rose was oddly gentle. Maybe Lily booked it. Maybe she changed her mind. I clung to that for half a second. Then I remembered the email, the forced stiffness, the careful wording. Don't come to my wedding. If she had wanted me there badly enough to buy a ticket, she would have called. She would have told me. She would have sounded like herself. This didn't sound like her, and it didn't look like her either. I hovered over the help menu and clicked on the tiny chat bubble in the corner. A box popped up. Hi, I'm Ava, your virtual assistant. How can I help you with your trip? I typed slowly, fingers steady, even though my chest felt anything but. I see a flight booking in my name that says it was canceled. I didn't book it. Can you tell me who did? The automated responses bounced back at me, suggesting FAQs and generic links. None of them answered the question I was really asking. I found the customer service number buried at the bottom of the page. The kitchen chair scraped softly against the tile as I stood to get my phone from the counter, the sound too loud in the quiet house. I dialed the number and pressed the speakerphone button, laying the phone next to the laptop. Thank you for calling. The recorded voice floated through the room, warm and empty. I waited, fingers tracing the edge of the mug. When a real human voice finally came on, friendly and tired, I gave her my name, my reference number, the details on the screen. I'm just a little confused. I never made this booking. There was a pause as she clicked through something on her end. It looks like this reservation was created 5 weeks ago and canceled 10 days later. My mouth drew dry. Is there any way you can tell me who paid for it? I asked. We can't share full card information, ma'am, but I can read you the name on the payment profile. I held my breath. Go ahead, I whispered. Her voice stayed casual, unaware that my world was tilting with every syllable. It was paid for by a Harper Family Holdings. The name sat in the air, heavy. My chest tightened. I had only heard that name once before, when Lily told me her fiancé's parents had a family office that handled finances and investments. She'd said it offhandedly, like it wasn't something that mattered, like it was just another way to say they were very, very wealthy. And they canceled it as well? I asked. Yes, same profile, same card, all refunded. I thanked her, even though the gratitude felt distant, mechanical. When I hung up, the kitchen went quiet again, the kind of quiet that presses in on your ears. I stared at the screen, at my own name, at the word canceled glowing back at me. So they had booked a ticket for me weeks ago, before any email, before any live stream, before I even knew the date. They had planned for me to come. Then something changed. They decided I shouldn't come. The realization came in layers. First surprise, then confusion, then slowly, a slow burn starting at the base of my throat. They weren't just telling me not to come now. I imagined those people who barely knew me, typing in my name, my date of birth, picking my seat, pressing confirm, like I was a package to be moved around. Then, 10 days later, pressing cancel with the same casual finality, they moved me off the board, without a word. My face felt hot, though the room was cold. I realized my hand had curled into a fist on the cable. It wasn't just about the wedding anymore. It wasn't even just about their control. It was about what they were so desperate to keep me from seeing. I looked again at the email, still open in the other tab. Don't come. Watch the live stream. Watch what they wanted me to see, from where they wanted me to sit, on a screen they controlled. A curated version of my daughter's life, filmed from angles they chose, with sound they approved, with any trace of fear neatly trimmed out before it reached me. They wanted me to be a viewer, not a witness. That was the part that made something inside me harden. I stood up, the chair legs scraping again, softer this time. The kettle on the stove was still half full from earlier, the metal cool under my hand. I lifted it, emptied the water into the sink, watched it swirl down the drain. I caught my reflection in the kitchen window. Just a faint outline, hair messy, eyes tired but sharp. I looked like someone's mother. I felt like one too. I walked back to the table and closed the airline window. The booking, the cancellation, the neat little digital record of their decision, gone from my screen, but not from my mind. If they wanted me to stay away that badly, there was a reason. A reason I was now more desperate to know than ever. I opened a new tab, typed in a different airline's name, then a train company, then bus routes, alternatives, crossovers, layovers, pieces of a journey that would take longer, be messier, draw less attention. The kind of route no one would think to cancel because it would never be in my name on their system. My eyes burned from the screen, but I kept scrolling. Outside, a car passed slowly, headlights brushing across the walls like a brief wandering ghost, then darkness again. I exhaled, long and steady. They could cancel the ticket. They could block the calls. They could strip her page of photos and delete questions from people who loved her. But they couldn't stop me from leaving my own house. I printed nothing, saved nothing, closed everything. If they were watching screens, they wouldn't see this part. When I finally turned off the laptop, the kitchen sank back into shadow. The hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the clock, the distant sound of a dog barking down the street, everything fell back into place. Almost. I stood there a moment longer, hand resting on the back of the chair, feeling the weight of what I'd just learned. They had prepared for my presence, then erased it. I whispered into the dim room, almost to myself. If you're so afraid of me being there, then I can't afford to stay away. The house didn't answer. But in the silence, my resolve settled, quiet and unshakable, like a stone dropped into deep water. Whatever they were hiding at that wedding, I was going to see it with my own eyes. The first message came just as the sky was beginning to lighten, that pale gray hour when the world feels half asleep and half afraid to wake. My phone buzzed once on the kitchen counter, the screen lighting up the dark like a small lighthouse. I was standing by the sink, staring out the window at the empty street, steam curling from the kettle I'd forgotten to turn on. I didn't recognize the number, but something about the timing, the silence of the house, made me reach for it before the notification disappeared. A single line flashed across the lock screen. "Is this Margaret? It's Hannah." For a moment, the name didn't register. Then it clicked. Hannah, one of Lily's bridesmaids. The one with the bright laugh and paint-stained fingers. The girl who used to sit at our dining room table eating pasta straight from the pot and calling me Mom by accident. I unlocked the phone with a trembling thumb. Her next message arrived before I could type anything. Please don't tell anyone I'm texting you. My heartbeat stuttered. I sank slowly into the kitchen chair, the wood cool beneath me, the silence heavy. I typed back, "Why not?" 3 dots appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. Finally, because Lily isn't allowed to talk to you. The words felt unreal at first, like something from a bad dream. I stared at them until the letters blurred, until the room around me seemed to tilt slightly. Allowed? Who allowed my daughter anything? I typed again, slower this time. What do you mean? Her reply came quickly, as if she'd been holding the words back for too long. She's not the same. She barely leaves the house. Someone is always with her. I pressed my fingers against my lips, the taste of bitterness rising. I remembered the stiff pictures online, the forced smiles, the way she always stood a little behind her fiancé, like she was trying to disappear into his shadow. Another message appeared. Her phone is monitored. She deleted all her old photos because they said it looked like messy. They again. Always they. I typed. Who is monitoring her? This time.
Control, image, money, I don't know. But she's scared. The word hit harder than anything else. Scared. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling, fighting the growing weight in my chest. Memories flickered. Lily running barefoot in the yard, laughing, hair tangled in the wind. Lily arguing passionately about choosing her own college. Lily calling me in tears when she failed her first exam, whispering, "I don't want you to be disappointed." My daughter had always been brave. If she was scared now, something was terribly wrong. Another buzz. She wanted to postpone the wedding. I froze. Wanted. Past tense. I typed quickly. What happened? Again, those 3 dots. Then, she told me she didn't feel ready, that things were moving too fast, that she needed space. I swallowed hard. Then why didn't she postpone? The answer came. They pressured her. They told her it would ruin everything. My pulse thudded in my ears. They, again. Who were these people who believed they could decide my daughter's entire life? Who believed they could erase her history, her voice, her mother? Another message appeared, almost frantic. She cried the night they set the date. She said she wished you were there. My throat tightened. Then why did she tell me not to come? Silence. The longest yet.
Not just physical, symbolic. Every guest who passed through was greeted with polite smiles and nods, like royalty entering a private kingdom. I heard laughter from inside, music, faint and elegant, the kind that belonged to crystal chandeliers and champagne towers. But beneath it all, something felt rehearsed, controlled, too perfect. I crouched low behind a hedge, close enough to hear one of the guards speak. Next, please. Invitation. A woman in a blue dress handed over a gold-edged envelope. The guard scanned it with a small device, then waved her through.
She walked inside without looking back, her heels tapping across the stone path. It hit me then, how easily Lily could disappear in a place like this. How easily I could, too. A breeze lifted the hem of my coat, and for a moment, I almost turned around. I could have gone home, opened my laptop, watched the curated live stream like they wanted, pretended everything was fine, pretended I believed the lie. But then a car door slammed, sharp and impatient, jerking me back to the present. A sleek black SUV had stopped by the entrance. Two men stepped out first, broad-shouldered, stern, expressionless. Not family. Security. Their eyes scanned the perimeter, lingering on the tree line where I hid. My heart tightened. Then the back door opened. Lily stepped out. My breath left me in one long, silent exhale. She looked beautiful, yes, but in the way a porcelain doll is beautiful, dressed perfectly, styled carefully, fragile. Her wedding dress was fitted at the waist, flowing down like soft clouds of ivory. Her hair was swept into an elegant updo, pearls threaded through the curls. From a distance, she looked like every bride in every magazine. But her shoulders told a different story. Rounded forward, guarded, shrinking. Her eyes were red, not from makeup, but from crying. Even from where I stood, I could see the way she held her bouquet too tightly, knuckles pale, fingers trembling faintly. The woman beside her fussed with her veil, smiling brightly, speaking fast. But Lily didn't react. She stared ahead toward the estate, lips pressed into a thin line. She didn't look like someone walking toward her happiest day of her life. She looked like someone being escorted. When she turned slightly, sunlight caught her face, and I saw it. Just for a moment. Fear. Not nerves. Not emotion. Fear. The kind that settles deep, that folds into the corners of your expression even when you're trying to hide it. My hand instinctively reached toward her, though she was too far away to feel it. I whispered her name, voice caught in my throat. Lily! One of the security men stepped closer to her, placing a hand near her back, not touching, but close enough that the message was clear. She wasn't moving freely. She was being guided. She glanced upward toward the estate, and I followed her gaze. A large window on the second floor stood open, white curtains blowing gently outward. Shadows moved inside, figures, preparing, bustling. Then one stepped into view, silhouetted by soft light. A man. Tall, straight posture, hands behind his back. Lily froze. Her grip on the bouquet tightened further, her chin lowered slightly, like a child bracing for reprimand. The man nodded once, slow and deliberate. Approval. Or command. Everything inside me hardened. This was not a wedding. This was a performance. She blinked repeatedly, forcing composure back over her features. When she lifted her head again, the fear was tucked away, hidden beneath a practiced smile. I watched it happen. I watched my daughter put on an expression for someone else's benefit. Not for love, not for joy, for survival. The SUV doors shut with a dull thud, and the guards ushered her inside the gates. The iron bars closed behind them with a soft, final click that echoed louder than any slam could. It sounded like chains. I sank deeper into the hedge, heart pounding, nails digging into my palms. I wasn't imagining this. I wasn't being dramatic. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. Guests continued to arrive, laughing, chatting, stepping through the gates like they belonged. Every so often, one of them looked up toward the upstairs window, as though seeking acknowledgement. The man leaned forward again, now clearly visible. He watched everything. Not with affection, with ownership. A bird cried overhead, startled from the branches above me, its wings beating loudly. For a moment, one of the guards turned, scanning the tree line again. I held my breath, pressing myself lower, praying the leaves hid me well enough. When he turned back, I exhaled slowly, the air trembling out of me. I shifted my position carefully, moving to a clearer view of the house. Through another window on the opposite side, I glimpsed movement, a flash of white. Lily again, being led through a hallway by two women in matching dresses. Bridesmaids. But they weren't chatting, laughing, or adjusting her train. They walked stiffly, eyes forward, as though following instructions. Lily stumbled once, catching herself on the wall. One of the bridesmaids grabbed her elbow, not gently, and whispered something sharp. I couldn't hear the words, but Lily's reaction told me enough. She flinched. My jaw clenched. This wasn't about tradition. This wasn't about elegance or privacy or family image. This was containment, a controlled environment. My daughter looked like a prisoner wrapped in lace. The music inside grew louder as the ceremony time approached. String instruments, graceful and slow, the kind meant to soothe and impress. But underneath it, I felt the tension tighten like wire. I watched the window again. Lily stood still now, facing a mirror. Her reflection stared back at her. For a moment, her eyes flicked toward the glass, not at her.
And somehow, impossibly, I felt she was looking for me. A connection stretched across the distance between us, thin but undeniable. Something in her expression shifted. Her lips parted, the smallest tremor crossing her face. Then one tear slid down her cheek. She wiped it quickly, glancing behind her, terrified someone might have seen. That single tear did more than break my heart. It anchored my resolve. I straightened slowly, fingers gripping the branches around me. I didn't know how I would get inside. I didn't know who stood between us. I didn't know what they were hiding. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. She wasn't safe. The music swelled, triumphant and bright, spilling out the open doors of the estate, but all I could hear was the quiet, desperate rhythm of my own heartbeat. I whispered into the wind, barely audible, "I'm here, Lily." The leaves rustled softly in response, as though carrying the words forward. I stepped back into the shadows, determination settling over me like armor. If they had built walls to keep me out, then they must be hiding something worth breaching. Whatever it took, whatever risk waited beyond those gates, I would not leave until I reached her. The first thing I noticed when I slipped back into the shadows wasn't the music or the murmur of guests gathering beyond the courtyard. It was the clicking, soft, rhythmic, mechanical, like insects tapping glass. At first, I thought it was part of the decor, some hidden fountain, maybe the rustle of leaves in the breeze. But when I pressed myself against a column and peeked around the corner, my breath stalled. Cameras. Not one, not two. Dozens. Mounted on tripods, clipped to railings, hidden in floral arrangements. All pointed toward the same place, toward Lily. She stood at the top of the staircase, bridesmaids adjusting her veil and smoothing the fabric around her shoulders. She looked small beneath the chandelier's glow, swallowed by lace and expectation. And every single lens followed her. Not the guests arriving below, not the groom greeting relatives, only her. A technician with a headset walked past me, grumbling under his breath. They want every angle covered, no mistakes, no unauthorized shots. The family was very clear. Another voice responded, annoyed. Yeah, control the narrative, right? Never seen a wedding this locked down." My heart clenched. Control the narrative.
Possessive, controlling, painful. Lily flinched. It was tiny, a tremor most would dismiss as nerves, but I saw it. I felt it in my bones. His grip tightened. Her breath hitched. He leaned close to her ear, whispering something with a smile still plastered across his face. Her shoulders stiffened. I stepped forward without thinking, my body reacting faster than fear, but Lily's eyes snapped to mine, wide with warning. Not yet. Her silent plea rooted me to the spot. He straightened, clearing his throat. "Everything is perfect," he said to the room, but his eyes stayed locked on Lily. Let's keep it that way. He reached for her arm again, fingers wrapping around the same spot, thumb pressing into soft flesh. A bruise was already forming there beneath her makeup. Faint, but visible from this close. The cameras followed their movement with eerie precision. Every angle, every touch, documenting. A perfect bride, a devoted groom, a flawless performance. He turned down toward the door, steering her like she was an object. My hand curled into a fist at my side. As they passed me, I caught a glimpse of Lily's profile. Her jaw trembled, her eyelashes glistened. But then she did something small, almost invisible. She moved her fingers, trailing them along the bouquet as she released it. 3 taps. A signal. When she was little, we used that as our secret message whenever she was scared but couldn't speak. 3 taps meant, "Help me." My throat burned. I tried to memorize every detail, the way her dress pulled too tight where he gripped her, the forced smile she gave the bridesmaids, the cameras trailing her like predators circling prey. The groom paused in the doorway and looked back. That smile again. Too white, too polished. His eyes, though, empty. He tilted his head slightly, studying me. "Enjoy the show," he said softly. "Show." Then he pulled Lily through the doorway, closing it behind them. The room exhaled, all at once. A bridesmaid wiped a tear quickly, pretending it was a smudge of mascara. Another stared at the floor, shoulders slumped. The makeup artist shook her head, whispering something under her breath. Everyone knew. No one spoke. The silence pressed in around me, thick and suffocating. I moved toward the mirror, lifting my sleeve casually. The flash drive nestled against my wrist like a heartbeat. A tiny thing, plastic and metal, but it felt explosive in my hand. What had Lily discovered? Financial crimes? Abuse? Blackmail? Something worse? What kind of family needed cameras to capture obedience and threats to enforce love? I heard the music swell beyond the door, signaling the beginning of the procession. Chairs scraping, guests murmuring. The wedding was starting. And somewhere in that building, my daughter was walking toward a life she didn't choose. I pressed my palm over the hidden drive, feeling the shape of it against my skin. If anything happens, her voice echoed in my mind. Show this to the world. Not give it to authorities. Not keep it safe. Show it. She needed exposure, visibility, publicity. Whatever was on this drive wasn't just evidence, it was truth someone was desperate to bury. Footsteps hurried down the hall. Someone shouted for the bridesmaids to line up. Cameras whirred to life. Music swelled higher. I stood alone for a moment, surrounded by flowers and lace and silence. Then I slipped out the side door, keeping to the shadows. The flash drive warmed against my skin. A lifeline. A confession. A warning. As the first notes of the wedding march filled the air, one thought settled deep in my chest. If they were willing to control every second of this day, what would they do when the cameras stopped? The first thing I noticed was the sound, not the music or the murmured excitement of guests shifting in their seats or even the soft whir of the cameras sweeping across the aisle. It was the frantic tapping of Lily's fingers against her bouquet. 3 taps. Our signal. Help me. From where I sat, hidden near the back beneath a row of towering floral arrangements, I watched her walk down the aisle on trembling legs, pale beneath her makeup, her smile stretched thin like paper about to tear. Her veil fluttered in the warm air drifting from the open garden doors. catching the sunlight in a way that made her look fragile, almost transparent, like she might dissolve if anyone touched her too hard. The groom stood waiting, posture perfect, expression sculpted for the cameras. When she reached him, he took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. His thumb pressed down firmly. I saw her flinch. The officiant began speaking, but his voice felt distant, drowned beneath the pounding in my chest. This was it. The moment she believed she wouldn't survive. The moment they planned to broadcast to the world proof that she would obey. I kept my eyes fixed on Lily, searching for any sign that she wanted me to intervene. Her gaze swept the crowd, landing briefly on me. Relief flickered, then fear, and she looked away quickly. She was being watched. The cameras were not just filming, they were monitoring. Her breathing grew shallow, her shoulders locking in place as the officiant continued his practice script. Do you, Lily James Whitaker, take... Her lips parted. Silence pooled around her like water. She didn't answer. A ripple moved through the audience. The groom's jaw tightened. He leaned in, his hand crushing hers, his smile frozen. I watched his lips move. A whisper. Sharp, controlled, threatening. Whatever he said made the color drain completely from her face. She swallowed.
The lights flickered. Gasps rose throughout the room as the large screens displaying the livestream glitched, the image distorting into fractured blocks of color before cutting to black. The cameras jerked, lights blinking rapidly. A technician cursed under his breath. The groom's head snapped toward the nearest camera, fury flashing across his features before he masked it again. Beside me, a woman clutched her pearls. "What's happening? I can't see anything!" The officiant tried to continue, but the sound system crackled, his words dissolving into static. Lily's hand slipped from the groom's grasp ever so slightly, hope flickering in her eyes. This disruption wasn't random. Someone had interfered. Was it Hannah? Another bridesmaid? Someone inside the family? Or was it Lily herself? The groom reached out, seizing her wrist, pulling her closer. His movements were small, hidden beneath the lace and flowers, but I saw the way her body stiffened, her breath hitching in her chest. He leaned in again, voice low and venomous. Her eyes squeezed shut. I wanted to stand, to yell, to run to her, but Lily had begged me not to expose myself too soon. If they knew I had the drive, I wouldn't make it out of this estate. The screens flickered back to life suddenly, the live stream resuming, but the image was wrong. Zoomed too close, unfocused. Then, for a split second, a different feed flashed on the screens. Lily crying alone in a dim room, mascara streaked, whispering, "I don't want this." Her voice barely audible, raw with fear. Gasps turned to shocked murmurs. What was that? Was that pre-recorded? Is she being forced? Before anyone could process it, the screen snapped back to the ceremony. The groom's family surged forward from the front rows, whispering urgently to technicians, demanding answers. A man in a dark suit tapped furiously on a tablet, panic tightening his features. Someone was losing control, and they knew it. The officiant cleared his throat, trying to regain order. "Shall we continue?" His voice shook. The groom squeezed Lily's hand again, harder than before, his teeth clenched behind his facade of charm. She whimpered softly. It tore through me like glass. Her gaze darted to the side doors, the ones leading toward the staff corridors, where I had slipped in earlier. Her breathing quickened, a silent plea forming in her eyes. Not yet. She was waiting for something. The groom reached out, seizing her wrist, pulling her closer, his lips brushing her ear. Lily's eyes widened in horror. She shook her head, barely perceptible. His grip tightened. I felt my entire body tense, rage burning hot beneath my ribs. Then, The lights flickered again. This time, the screens glowed white for a heartbeat before displaying a single image. A ledger. Numbers. Transfers. Names. The groom's family company logo watermark at the corner. Illegal transactions. Money laundering. The kind of evidence that could destroy them. A ripple of chaos swept through the audience. Is this part of the ceremony? No, this looks real. Turn it off! The groom lunged toward the nearest camera, shouting at the technicians. His mask cracked, panic twisting his features. Lily stepped back instinctively, breaking his grip. For one breath, she was free. She looked at me, directly, and mouthed, "Now." My chair scraped softly against the floor as I rose, heart hammering. My fingers brushed the hidden flash drive beneath my sleeve, warm against my skin. Everything was unraveling. The groom turned, eyes searching, wild. He spotted me. Recognition flared. His expression twisted into something dark, dangerous. He took a step toward me, abandoning the facade entirely. His mother grabbed his arm, hissing something frantic, pulling him back. Security moved toward the front, trying to restore order. The officiant stood frozen, clutching the marriage book like a shield. Lily stood alone, bouquet trembling in her hands, veil shaking with her breath. She looked so small, so breakable, but in her eyes, fire, determination, a silent scream for freedom. The music faltered, strings wavering, before cutting out entirely. Silence fell heavy and suffocating. The groom reached for her again. Lily stepped backward, just out of his grasp. Her voice shook as she whispered, "I can't." Not loud, not strong, but real. Honest. The groom's face twisted with rage. He lunged, and the live stream glitched again, screens flickering violently, audience gasping. In the chaos, one thought settled cold and sharp in my mind. Someone else was helping us. Someone inside.